So you heard of this problem. You knew of people that their children were going through this. And how long did it take you before you decided to commit to pen to paper on this?
So I spent maybe a month or so just hearing the reports of the parents and reading the original study. There's an original study that the book is, jumps off from, which is the Lisa Littman paper at Brown University. She's a public health researcher who looked into this. And she found that there was all of a sudden this huge epidemic in America of teenage girls deciding they were trans with their friends after social media emerged and pushing for hormones and surgeries.
Have you had a conversation about this with someone who's a trans activist that says, well, maybe what's really going on, I mean, I'm just taking the argument of it. Maybe what's going on is there are a lot of trans women and there would be more, or there's a lot of women who would turn trans, become a man. There would be more, but they never had that door open to them before, and that maybe there's more trans people than we think.
Amazing. So it's a great point, and I thought about it because I tried to look. I'm a journalist. I like to look at ideas on both sides. I did not have a dog in this race. So let me tell you 3 reasons I don't think that's compelling. Number one, when Lisa Littman looked at the prevalence rate, she found that it's 70 times what we would expect within a friend group, which means it's highly concentrated in groups of friends. But there's 2 other reasons. So we wouldn't expect that if it were randomly distributed among the population. But there are 2 other reasons I don't think that's right. Number one, if we're just reverting to normal now that there's greater societal acceptance, right? We're just reverting to a normal base rate of transgender women. Why are all the women in their 40s and 60s coming out as trans? They should be coming out. Now's their time. Now's their moment. We should see tons of women in their 40s and 60s and so on coming out as transgender. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing the same population that gets involved in cutting, demonic possession, witchcraft, anorexia, bulimia, and convinces themselves there's a problem. And there's one last reason, is that suicide rates are going up. But if these women who were living under a prior, supposedly these real transgender people who were living under a more repressive regime and are now just finding themselves, you would think the suicide rate would be going down with greater acceptance.
So when you're saying suicide rates are going up, you mean suicide rates with teens who turn trans?
Both. That's the rate of suicide among this population, first of all, among girls in general, is extraordinarily high. This is just one part of the mental health crisis they're in. And second of all, we know that the rate that these trans-identified kids have very high rates of suicide, suicidal ideation. It's really, an area of real concern.